What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to talk to you today about pivoting from your niche. Maybe off of it, maybe around it, maybe you're keeping the same thing. But this actually came up in a discussion I had with a financial coach who was working with a very specific subset of the population. And I'll kind of share some specifics about that. But as we talked about it, I thought it would be important to talk about pivoting from your niche. Now, I have some other videos about niches, and people talk about niches a lot, and I like them generally, but I think that there are all sorts of problems with them too. I think we take them a little bit too literally. We kind of get too specific. And so actually, if you saw my video originally called Don't Pick Your Niche Too Early, I think that's an important one, because I think a lot of people, as they are sitting around ideating about their financial coaching practice, they write down what their niche is. Hey, this is what I am. I'm a single mother, or I'm a father of 15 kids, or I'm a pilot, or I am a boat captain, or I work in the rail yards, or I'm a teacher, or whatever it might be. This is my population. These are my people, and that's who I'm going to work with. And the reality is that most of the time, it can be too specific. Most of the time, that gives us blinders to opportunities that might be, smacking us in the face, and we just aren't seeing them and certainly aren't taking them, right? And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was when people realize this, when people have decided, generally who they're going to target, who they're going to work with, and they are finding that they aren't getting traction from it, how do you pivot from your niche? And one of the things that I will say here is that even as you're determining your niche, you don't necessarily have to telegraph it to everyone, right? And I think people are telegraphing it and telling people about them maybe in slightly wrong ways. So it's one thing, for example, here is when I would be as specific as possible. You have written down your niche. I want to work with parents of Boy Scouts, right? Parents that have kids in Boy Scouts, because I volunteer with Boy Scouts, I have kids in Boy Scouts, whatever it might be. And so you think you really relate to them. And if you're going to go to a networking organization, a networking group, a networking dinner, mixer, those types of things, that's where you can use that example, because you don't know anything about this. There might be hundreds of people there. You don't know anything about them. And so as opposed to trying to figure it out, you don't have necessarily a lot of time in some of those. You can say, listen, I work with the parents of Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or Cub Scouts or whatever, people that are into outdoor youth building activities, because I have found that a lot of them are kind of looking for programs for their kids and they want to be great parents or whatever it might be. And so you give them your pitch and you're kind of sharing your very specific niche. But what I also find is that sometimes people use that same pitch when they are talking to their prospect. And the reality is, anyone talking to you is a prospect. And you might be saying, hey, I want to work with parents of Boy Scouts. And you might find that, well, I don't know anything about Boy Scouts. I don't have any kids at all. I'm a retiree that never got married, has no kids, has no family. And it's way outside of your defined niche. But that might be the perfect client for you. And so I think what happens is that we kind of use this sharing of our niche more often than we should. In networking events, just fine. But with prospects, I think it's more important to kind of ask some probing questions about them, ask them some questions about what they're looking for, and then see if you can offer any advice. Now, it's possible that you might not have any, but if it's, hey, it's just about getting into retirement, about retirement accounts and distribution strategies and collecting Social Security and, how to provide for healthcare costs and retirement and all those types of things, you can just have that conversation and it might be a great one for you. And in fact, one of the things that I realized here is that when I was talking to my friend, and let me give you the specific example, he is a guy who has really downsized in his life. He's maybe kind of in the 5 community, not officially or anything like that, but he sold his house. He's divorced. He has a couple of kids, they're all adult kids, and he sold his house and ended up buying a sailboat and lives on the sailboat in a nice area, but just pays the dock fee and the boat's paid off and everything. And he loves it because then he can go around, sail, enjoy, and works as a boat salesman, a yacht salesman in the marina that he actually stays in. And so his employer loves it because he's there. He knows a lot about boating. He can answer the technical questions. He can answer the experiential questions. And he thought he would get into financial coaching for people who wanted to buy boats. And what he found is that people who want to buy boats usually don't determine that way before they can afford a boat, right? So what you might think is, hey, this is a big purchase. I'm going to need years and years and years to figure out how to buy a boat. The problem is when he started going out there and saying, do you want to buy a boat? If someone is kind of struggling financially, they're not thinking about buying a boat. They're thinking about, how can I not struggle financially? The people who are thinking about buying a boat typically are the people who have had now $1 million sitting around, or a couple $1,000,000. They've made their money, and now they're thinking about buying a boat. And so even though he defined his niche as wanting to help people that were buying boats, making this big purchase, he really didn't find that there was a market for it. So as we were talking, we were trying to kind of reduce this down a little bit to say, what was it about that experience that you were going to be able to help them with? And it was really about, well, I was going to help them get budgeting and get on a savings plan and figure out what their growth rate needs to be and where the money should be invested or parked, or those types of things. And what we realized is that he wasn't really trying to help people buy a boat. He was trying to help people with planning and being able to afford any particular big purchase, right? So whether it was a car, a house, a boat, an airplane, an apartment building, whatever it might be, a big purchase to someone can be very specific, and it's going to be relative, right? Someone might say, listen, I want to buy a new laptop, and that's a big purchase for them. Someone might say, hey, I want to buy a new cell phone. That's a big purchase. Other people might say, I want to buy an island, and that's a big purchase for them, right? So it's all relative. But for the people who want to make a big purchase and don't know how to get there, generally the strategies are pretty similar. And so he pivoted from saying, listen, I'm looking to work with people who are trying to be able to afford a boat, and all the things that come with it, to working with people who are looking to make their first big purchase in many ways. And not only the big purchase, but it was marketed with a presentation about what you're not thinking about, and particularly, kind of based on boats, they have high maintenance costs. For people that are thinking about buying a home, there are maintenance costs and property taxes and, a roof that needs to be replaced every 20 years and other things like that, right? And so he was able to put this all into a presentation, and he was able to start getting people who were thinking about their next big purchase, or they had some big purchase, a vacation that they wanted to go on, a car they wanted to buy, whatever it might be. So while he didn't eliminate his original niche completely, right? Someone could still come to him and say, hey, I want to buy a yacht, right? And he could help them with that. Almost none of his clients, I don't think any of his clients, actually had that particular goal. But he pivoted slightly from that to say, what is this more about? What is this that about? And it's about helping people with their large purchases, right? So that was a broader niche, but in the same niche. And so he was able to start finding clients that way. And so, like I said, we worked on the presentation. I want to say it was something about like the 4 things that people making big purchases miss, or something like that, and it was, like I said, not understanding the ongoing costs and not understanding the titling of things, and just some specific but helpful things that apply to the broadest range of people. The insurance costs on it, right? Buying a big car, or an expensive car, or a new car or vehicle, or even a cell phone. So some people would get insurance on cell phones. So he's talking about like the maintenance and the insurance and all these other things. Anyway, so that ended up being a pretty good workshop for him and brought in people. And he was able to kind of get his financial coaching practice off the ground with that, after kind of spending a lot of time on the yacht angle without picking up anyone. So hopefully that helps a little bit as you are kind of thinking about your niche. And especially if you're having some trouble getting traction with your niche, finding clients within your niche, I think the idea here is, how can we pivot it? How can we broaden it? And has that made you look away or turn away from some stuff where people were interested in things that maybe you didn't think was your strongest suit, that there were opportunities there? Who did you talk to? And people said, oh, that's too bad. I've got someone that probably needs someone like you, but it's on this type of topic. Or I've got a dentist that is trying to turn his practice around, but or I've got a small business owner, but his personal finances are in shambles, or I have a real estate agent who is trying to figure out how to get the people that couldn't get qualified for a mortgage better credit, or whatever it might be, right? So sometimes there are people that are trying to hand you leads, trying to hand you people that they know on a silver platter, and sometimes we're just not receptive to them because we're so locked in on this niche or this target market that we've identified. Definitely, like I said, you can define your niche, go after it, be specific about it in your networking events. But when you're out there with actual prospects, people that might want to work with you, I would say be a little broader and ask them what they're looking for. And maybe you can't help, but maybe as you are asking about it, you'll say, hey, that is something I can help with. And it's maybe not a market that I identified as I was sitting around doing my strategies, but it's something that I could try, and it just might lead to another client and another client, and then you might find that your niche gets defined for you just based on the number of people that you're working with. So think about being open-minded on it, pivoting off your niche, adapting, broadening if need be. And if you want to talk about your niches in general, maybe you have one and you're having some trouble with it, I'd be happy to discuss that with you and see if we can come up with an idea to turn it around. So hopefully that helps. See you later.